In the year 897, in the city of Rome, a trial was held. The accused stood before the court, charged with serious crimes. There was just one problem. The accused was already dead. He had been dead for months. His body had been dug up from its grave, dressed in fine robes, and propped up on a throne to face the charges. And this was no ordinary man. He was a former pope. This is the story of one of the strangest events in history. The Cadaver Synod. Welcome to Curio Hour, where we uncover the strange, the unsolved, and the unforgettable. Today's story, the Cadaver Synod. To understand how such a bizarre event could take place, we have to understand the world of the late 9th century. It was a dark and chaotic time. The great empire that the famous king Charlemagne had built was crumbling. Across Europe, central authority was collapsing into a patchwork of feuding lords and factions. Italy in particular was a battleground. Powerful noble families fought viciously for control, and rival claimants struggled over who should rule. And caught in the middle of all this was the papacy, the office of the Pope, the head of the Western Church. It was the most powerful religious position in Europe. But in this era, the papacy was not just a spiritual office. It was a political prize, fought over by the great families of Rome and the warlords of Italy. Popes in this period rose and fell with terrifying speed. Many were installed by one faction, only to be torn down, imprisoned, or killed when their rivals gained the upper hand. It was an age of intrigue, betrayal, and violence at the very heart of the church. And it produced one of the most shocking acts of vengeance ever recorded. To tell this story, we need to meet two men. Two popes whose bitter rivalry would outlast even death itself. The first was Pope Formosus. He was an experienced and capable churchman who had served the church for many years and risen to become pope in the year 891. But Formosus had made enemies. In the tangled politics of Italy, he had backed certain claimants to power over others, and he had taken sides in dangerous feuds. He had crowned one ruler as emperor, then later turned to support a rival. In doing so, he earned the lasting hatred of the powerful family he had abandoned. Formosus served as pope for about 5 years, until his death from natural causes in 896. He was buried as Pope Tsar with honor. And that, you might think, should have been the end of it. But his enemies were not finished with him. After his death, the throne of St. Peter changed hands rapidly in the usual chaos of the age. And before long, the papacy fell to a man named Stephen, who became Pope Stephen VI. Stephen was closely tied to the faction that had despised Formosus. Stephen's hatred of the dead Formosus seems to have been deep and personal, perhaps even bordering on obsession. And he conceived a plan to destroy his predecessor's memory entirely. In early 897, Pope Stephen ordered that the body of Formosus be removed from its tomb. The corpse, which had been buried for months, was exhumed. The decaying body was brought into a church in Rome, where a full ecclesiastical trial had been arranged. The dead pope was to be formally tried for his alleged crimes. The corpse was dressed in the full, magnificent vestments of a pope. It was then propped up on a throne, seated upright to face its accusers. Imagine the scene. A grand church filled with bishops and clergy. And there, on the papal throne, the dressed-up body of a man dead for the better part of a year. Pope Stephen himself acted as the chief accuser, reportedly shouting his charges at the silent corpse, working himself into a fury before the assembled court. And because a corpse cannot speak in its own defense, a young deacon was made to crouch behind the body and answer the questions on behalf of the dead pope. So the trial proceeded as a grotesque piece of theater. Stephen would hurl an accusation at the body, and and the trembling deacon, hidden behind the throne, would mumble a denial. The charges against Formosus were largely political, dressed up in the language of church law. He was accused of unlawfully taking the papacy and of breaking sacred rules. But the real motive was plain to everyone. This was revenge. It was an attempt to erase Formosus, to undo everything he had done, and to humiliate him beyond the grave. The outcome was never in doubt. The court, packed and presided over by the dead man's greatest enemy, found the corpse guilty on all counts. And then came the punishment. Formosus was declared to have never been a legitimate pope. All of his official acts and appointments were declared null and void. But Stephen was not content with this. He ordered that the 3 fingers of the corpse's right hand, the fingers a pope used to give blessings, be cut off. The vestments were stripped from the body, and the mutilated corpse was then dragged through the streets of Rome and unceremoniously buried in a common grave. Even that was not the end. According to the accounts, the body was later dug up yet again, and this time it was thrown into the river Tiber. The dead pope, condemned, mutilated, and discarded, was cast into the waters to be carried away and forgotten forever. It was an act of breathtaking cruelty and strangeness. Pope Stephen had achieved his terrible revenge. But in his fury, he had badly misjudged the mood of the city and of the people of Rome. The trial of a corpse, the mutilation of a former pope, the desecration of a grave. To many, this was monstrous, a horror that brought shame upon the church itself. And then came a sign that the superstitious people of the age could not ignore. The church where the grim trial had been held was struck by an earthquake and partly collapsed. To the people of Rome, this seemed like divine judgment, a sign of heaven's anger at what had been done. Public opinion turned violently against Pope Stephen. There is also a legend that the body of Formosus, after being thrown in the river, washed ashore, and that people claimed it began to perform miracles. Whether or not that is true, the tide of feeling had turned completely. The man who had tried a corpse was now the most hated figure in Rome. Within months, Stephen's enemies rose up against him. He was seized, stripped of his papal office, and thrown into prison. And there in his cell, Pope Stephen VI met a grim end. He was strangled to death just months after the bizarre trial he had staged. The man who had so cruelly violated the dead was himself dead within the year, the victim of the same brutal politics he had played. In the aftermath, the chaos continued. A later pope worked to undo the damage, reversing the verdict against Formosus and restoring his honor and his acts. The body of Formosus, recovered once more, was reburied with full honors in its proper resting place, the disgrace officially erased. Future popes went further, forbidding the practice of ever again putting a dead person on trial. The Cadaver Synod was so shameful that the Church sought to ensure it could never be repeated. But the back and forth was not quite over. In the turbulent years that followed, the verdict was reversed, restored, and debated again as different factions seized power. It was a perfect reflection of the age. A time so unstable that even the judgment passed on a dead man could be overturned and reinstated as the political winds shifted. Eventually, the reputation of Formosus was settled, and he was remembered as a legitimate pope. The strange chapter of the corpse on the throne was closed for good. Today, the Cadaver Synod stands as one of the most bizarre events in the long history of the Church. A moment when grief, hatred, and politics collided in the most macabre way imaginable. It is a window into a brutal and chaotic age, when even death offered no protection from the reach of one's enemies, and a corpse could be summoned to stand trial. A dead pope dressed in robes, propped on a throne and condemned. It really happened more than 1100 years ago. The Cadaver Synod.